A poor janitor father, humiliated and fired by a ruthless CEO, walked out of the glass tower with nothing but a mop in his hand. But within weeks, this nobody made a single move that not only shook Wall Street but also saved that same CEO's $20 billion empire. And when she finally came face to face with him again, she couldn't hold back her tears. Marcus had been working as a janitor in the towering glass headquarters of Hale Enterprises for nearly 6 years. He was known as the man who never complained, the one who quietly polished marble floors long after everyone else had gone home. Each night, he moved silently through the empty hallways, pushing his mop and humming softly to keep himself awake. His only reason for working these endless night shifts was his 10-year-old daughter Lily, waiting for him back in their tiny apartment. On this particular night, the building was unusually tense. Rumors of a failed billion-dollar deal echoed through the corridors, and Victoria Hale, the company's young CEO, was in one of her infamous moods. She was brilliant, ruthless, and cold, a woman who built an empire by being sharper than anyone around her. Marcus had seen her before, always passing by in a blur of expensive heels and icy perfume, but he had never spoken to her directly. As fate would have it, while cleaning the gleaming lobby, Marcus accidentally rolled his mop bucket too close, splashing a small drop of water near her feet. She froze, eyes flashing with anger, and the entire security staff stiffened. "Are you serious?" she hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is a billion-dollar building, and you can't even keep water off the floor?" Marcus quickly apologized, bowing his head, but she wasn't in the mood for forgiveness. "You're done here. Pack your things," she said, her voice cold and final. The room fell silent. With trembling hands, Marcus collected his worn-out gloves and cleaning supplies, avoiding everyone's eyes. No one spoke as he pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped into the freezing night. For Marcus, the world felt heavier than it ever had before. Marcus trudged home through the biting winter wind, his thin jacket doing little to keep him warm. By the time he reached his small apartment, his fingers were numb, and his heart felt heavier than the night sky above. Inside, the dim light of a single lamp flickered, and the smell of instant noodles filled the air. Lily, his 10-year-old daughter, ran up to him, her smile wide despite the meager dinner on the table. "Hi, Daddy," she said, holding up a drawing she made of the two of them. Marcus forced a smile, hiding his exhaustion and shame. They ate in silence, Lily chattering about school, unaware of her father's troubles. Later that night, when she was asleep under her thin blanket, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table with his old, battered laptop. He had once been a promising engineering student, but life's hardships, his wife's illness, bills, and the need to work, had forced him to drop out. Now, with no job, no savings, and a child to care for, despair threatened to crush him. But as he stared at the glowing screen, something stirred in him: determination. He pulled up old notes, textbooks, and industry reports, digging into the company that had just cast him aside. Hale Enterprises was massive, but Marcus noticed things most people overlooked: outdated firewalls, weak data systems, and cracks in their cyber infrastructure. He wasn't seeking revenge. He knew that if these weaknesses weren't fixed, the company, and thousands of jobs, could be destroyed by a single hacker. So Marcus began writing. He typed up a detailed analysis, a step-by-step plan to secure the company's systems, pouring in every bit of knowledge he had. By dawn, he had created something powerful, not for himself, but to protect the very people who had turned their backs on him. 2 weeks passed, and Marcus's sleepless nights felt like a blur. He had sent his carefully written report to a generic company email, unsure if anyone would even read it. Life was growing harder each day, bills piled up, and he spent hours walking the streets, searching for work. Meanwhile, inside the skyscraper he once cleaned, chaos was quietly building. Hale Enterprises, worth over $20 billion, had become a silent target. Hackers from overseas had found the same cracks Marcus warned about, and they were striking hard. At first, the problem seemed small: glitches in the system, strange financial transfers, and minor delays. But within days, the stock began to nosedive. Millions vanished, then billions. The media erupted, calling it the company's worst week in history. Victoria Hale, always calm and commanding, now sat in boardrooms surrounded by frantic executives and shouting investors. Her empire was collapsing in real time, and she couldn't find the leak. As the panic grew, she finally read Marcus's email. His message was detailed, precise, and chilling. He described every weak point and explained how attackers could cripple their systems, exactly what was happening now. At the bottom of the email was a simple line: "I used to work for you. I don't want revenge. I want to help." For the first time in years, Victoria felt fear and humility. With no other option, she ordered her team to follow Marcus's plan. Hour after hour, engineers worked through the night, implementing his steps. Slowly, the bleeding slowed. The cyber attacks stopped spreading, but the damage was already historic. Stockholders were furious, employees were terrified, and Victoria's reputation hung by a thread. Yet deep inside her mind, one question burned: who was this man who had saved her company when no one else could? Within 3 weeks, Hale Enterprises had stabilized. The once unstoppable cyberattacks were neutralized, and investors slowly returned, crediting Victoria Hale's brilliant leadership for saving the empire. But Victoria knew the truth: none of the praise belonged to her. She couldn't sleep at night, haunted by the anonymous email. The precision of the plan, the humility in the message. It wasn't the work of a consultant or a rival company, it was someone who truly cared. Determined to find him, she ordered her tech team to trace the encrypted emails. When the report landed on her desk, she was stunned. The sender was Marcus, the janitor she had fired without a second thought. Victoria stared at his file. No formal degree, no accolades, just a single father struggling to survive. Guilt weighed heavily on her chest. She arranged a private meeting and sent a formal invitation to his small apartment. Marcus nearly ignored it, thinking it was a mistake, but curiosity, and the thought of Lily's future, made him accept. On the day of the meeting, he walked through the towering glass doors he had once cleaned, wearing his only decent shirt, nerves twisting in his stomach. When Victoria saw him enter her office, she froze. Gone was the quiet janitor with a mop. In his place stood a man whose quiet intelligence had saved her empire. "It was you," she whispered, her icy tone softened with disbelief. Marcus simply nodded. "I couldn't let thousands of people lose their jobs because no one was paying attention," he said calmly. For the first time in years, Victoria felt her walls crumble. She extended her hand with genuine respect, her voice trembling as she said, "Thank you." That single moment shifted everything, not just for Victoria, but for Marcus and Lily's future as well. Shall I go ahead and write Chapter 5 in the same style to complete the story? Victoria Hale, once feared for her coldness, felt a rare sense of humility as she sat across from Marcus. She offered him a high-ranking position with a 6-figure salary, eager to repay him for saving her empire. But Marcus, with quiet dignity, shook his head. "I don't need riches," he said softly. "I just want stability for my daughter. A chance to live without fear of the next bill or eviction notice." His words struck her harder than any boardroom battle she had ever fought. That night, Victoria made a decision that would define her career, not just as a CEO, but as a person. She paid off Marcus's debts, arranged a full scholarship for Lily, and created a new cybersecurity division, placing Marcus at its head. Though hesitant, he accepted the role, not for glory, but to ensure that no company, no worker, would ever face what he had endured. Under Marcus's leadership, Hale Enterprises grew stronger than ever, becoming a global symbol of innovation and resilience. Years passed, and while the world remembered Victoria as a powerful business leader, she always credited a humble man for saving her empire. In interviews, she often told the story of a janitor whose wisdom and integrity were worth more than gold. Marcus never let success change him. He still walked Lily to school every morning, still greeted neighbors with warmth, and still kept the old mop he used on the day he was fired, a reminder of where he came from. Lily grew up to become a brilliant engineer, inspired by her father's strength and humility. And though Marcus never sought recognition, his story quietly spread across the company, a legend whispered in hallways: the janitor who saved a $20 billion empire with nothing but knowledge, courage, and heart.